12 and the opening tip. Sled and Najdawi and out of bounds. I've seen indications from players on both teams waiting for the official indication, and I do believe it will be the Citadel's ball. So we're underway here, the first of two men's games on this Friday night.
I think Devin Peterson didn't. I don't know that he thought that ball was going to take that quick of a bounce out of bounds. Clearly Adam Sled tipped it backwards.
Frankie Johnson, one of the freshmen that's made an impact, a very young Citadel team. Nice feed inside. Ezekiel Balogun, who's suddenly found offense in his game the past few ball games, and he throws it home.
Now, nice feed right there by Parks driving baseline. And you talked about it. Everybody says Balogun's got upside. Well, he does, but he has come into his own here late in his freshman campaign.
He averages 6 points a game, but he scored nearly 40 the past two. What a nice feed inside as Peterson finding Sled, the freshman. Devin Peterson, just over 3 assists a game, gets one there.
Citadel came out a little 1-3-1 right there. They played primarily zone the last couple of outings, but haven't shown a lot of that 1-3-1.
Balogun for Johnson, and travel will be called, so an early turnover. The Citadel gives it up about 14 times a game. Take a look at Balogun doing his work inside.
Well, it all started with Parks driving baseline. He couldn't turn the corner, but Balogun making a nice basket cut, recognizing what was occurring there as Sled was coming over to help.
Against some pressure, Steger breaks it. The feed eventually goes underneath. Gosselin rejected right side, then left side, and out of bounds. It'll stay Western Carolina's end. Najdawi showing you some stuff.
Now that's what you've got to do. You've got to attack that Citadel pressure, regardless if it's full three-quarter or half court. At that time, Najdawi and Balogun got the better of Gosselin inside.
And it comes to Mutombo. Shot clock now at 10. Steger from the corner. Freshman out of just outside of Columbus, Ohio. 41% beyond the arc.
He can certainly do that. He's among the best young shooters in what is really a terrific freshman class in the Southern Conference.
Catamounts get the ball back with the early 5-2 advantage. As you saw coming in, Western on the year overall 9-22, the Citadel 11-20. Sled, and we're going to get a held ball in the arrow, pointing Western Carolina's way.
Well, and while that ball was tied up right there, nice job by Devin Peterson. He recognized the 2-2-1 and then found Mutombo in the middle. That's what the Catamounts have to do. They're going to put pressure on the Citadel.
Peterson, bullet pass underneath Gosselin. This time can't get it to go again. His own rebound, baby hook, no. And eventually we follow the bouncing ball, but Steger couldn't save it from going out of bounds and back over to the Citadel.
Gosselin, the righty, really using his left hand very well, but doing everything but putting the ball in the basket.
Turger Balkum in his career 14-7. I should say 2-4 against the Citadel. Larry Hunter 14-7 against the Citadel team, and Turger Balkum 2-4 against Western Carolina. Balogun driving inside, rejected. Mark Gosselin, very long and athletic at 6'7".
No, he is. He's given him a little taste in return of his own medicine, and then it bounces off of Balogun's shoulder. Western Carolina basketball. Nice job right there defensively by Gosselin.
Mutombo, the top scorer on this Western Carolina team, but Peterson's probably their best scoring threat. Parks almost losing the handle after the Western turnover. Parks, as he is like to do, loads up a three early in the shot clock, and that is how you win Freshman of the Year in the conference.
No question. I mean, he comes in on an absolute tear. His last 5, averaging in the mid to upper 20s. You can't let him spot up like that. That's just simply too easy if you're Western Carolina.
Mutombo inside. Najdawi backed off. Haboubacar Mutombo, his first field goal in the game. So back and forth we go. 2-point lead for the Catamounts. Sledge inside. Little runner up and in for Warren Sledge, who's really one of the few seniors they've counted on this season. Pressure and eventually a reach-in foul, and that'll be called, I believe, on Frankie Johnson.
Even though the Catamounts have not scored in a couple of opportunities, some chippies, and they turned it over the last possession, I like how they're looking to get the ball to Mutombo in the middle, because he can put a lot of pressure on that Citadel backer, really the front court. Turger Balkum will have some things to worry about if they keep getting that ball to Mutombo in the middle.
So Johnson rung up. That time for the first personal in the game on either side. Peterson against this zone, which worked really effectively the other night for the Citadel against Chattanooga, but that time Devin Peterson does what you're supposed to do, shoot over the zone.
Exactly right. He went inside. Sled didn't have anything inside out. Generally creates an open opportunity.
Inside feed, Nash Dowie, good finisher in front of the rim, not that time, and Sled boxing him out for the rebound. Adam Sled's really grown up, the 6'8" freshman, in this first year with the Cats.
No question. He's gotten better in conference play. He's a better athlete than he looks. He runs the floor. He'll compete inside. He's got a quick first step. He's got a bright future in Colorado.
And again, the team has kind of evolved to a core of Steger as a freshman, Sled as a freshman, Peterson's a junior, Mutombo's got another year left, Gosselin's a sophomore, and I think Larry Hunter's kind of happy with that working group he relied on to play the most minutes down the stretch. And there's Gosselin stepping in front, gets his 31st steal of the year. Can he finish on the other end? No, the lid's been on for him. Had the rebound momentarily. It's a veritable scrum. Frierson just checked in. He battles with Sled, and the arrow will point it back the Citadel's way. Which leads us to an official timeout on the. And Preston Parks out of Wade Hampton High in Greenville, South Carolina, was someone he was headed elsewhere, didn't like how things were playing there, so he decided to give the Citadel a try, and it wasn't like he was a blue chip. I mean, it happened very late in the process. Look at that one from long range. It's an air ball, and Gosselin comes down with it. So Parks, though, has developed well, to say the least. Much more, I think, than Duggar Balkman's staff expected in his first year.
I don't think anybody expected that, although talking to assistant Daniel Willis, kind of leads up the recruiting for the Citadel. They saw some things in him and were really excited during the summer. But it's all about choosing the right school, and he chose a system and an area that was a need for them to play, and he has flourished.
Ashley Williams just checked in for Western Carolina. Couldn't get that one to go. And it's kind of been either really hot or really cold in games for the Catamounts this year. Drive inside by Leandra Allende, and they will call the foul. Mark Gosselin, his first.
The Citadel staff really high on Allende, although he has struggled a little bit late in the season, almost hit that freshman wall, unlike Parks, who's flourished. But they still believe he's one of their better all-around players.
Allende, 68% from the line this year. 19 starts in this his freshman season, coming off the bench of late.
According to the Citadel staff, hasn't minded kind of being put on the bench and being that 6th, 7th man. He recognizes he's got some areas to work on, but has continued to work hard.
Native of Puerto Rico goes 1 out of 2. And Gosselin again the rebound. And again, Gosselin 6'7", but he plays like he's about 6'8" with that reach, 6'9". And the average is close to 7 rebounds a game.
So he's from France. He's got that European game. We saw it there a couple possessions ago with that Euro step. He didn't finish the left hand.
Sled will try a little lefty hook. Beilagen battling with others and eventually ends up in the hands of Sled. He puts it up and in. Adam Sled cleaning up inside.
Well, Sled in the right place, right time, but credit Ashley Williams for keeping that ball alive.
Beilagen driving inside, tries to force one, and now he'll get called for the foul over the back, so that'll be the first on Ezekiel Beilagen out of Lagos, Nigeria. Now 2 team fouls on the Citadel.
Well, nice defense right there by Sled. He did everything that Larry Hunter would ask out of a young player. He moved his feet, he went straight up, and then he corralled the rebound and didn't allow Ezekiel Beilagen to do anything other than go over his back.
Citadel inserts Quason Williams into the lineup. Is interesting. Each team has a player named Williams who's counted on to be a shooter, and each is either hit or miss, and you usually know early on when they get out there. Gosselin from out front, and he greens that one. He had all kinds of issues, 2 feet from the basket, but he hits the 3, came in at 36% beyond the arc.
Well, sometimes that's the case.
Now Dowie almost losing it out high. So the Catamounts build on their early lead out to 6 points.
Gosselin's been as good defensively as he has offensively here in the early going.
And an offensive foul will be called As Johnson used the arm. Take another look at what Gosselin can do out high.
Well, they flattened the defense by hitting Sled in the short corner, and he found Gosselin arguably the easiest three in the game right at the top. He's a guy that was the first forward off the bench last year as a freshman, but has really come on.
And playing with a hop in his step the other night, he had a career high 20 points in their win against VMI. Catamounts lose it after breaking the press. Williams and then taken away by Peterson. There he goes, and he'll gently lay it up and in. 36 steal this year for Peterson. Western's on a 7-0 run. They build the lead out to 8.
Well, their defense has been very solid here in the early 6 minutes.
And Williams, in a season that has had all kinds of issues for him scoring, gets a friendly roll, and that's a big bucket right there to break momentum for the Citadel. Peterson feeding Mutombo, and let's see, offensive foul be called, so give Sledge credit for holding his ground, and Haboubacar Mutombo picks up his first.
And that's what Citadel wants you to do. They want to speed you up, potentially for turnovers, but in instances like that where you're just out of control and you don't know what to do, Mutombo just takes the charge.
Tyler Burgess just checked into the ball game. You will see walk-on next to him. I'll tell you what, the other night, it was as if they'd brought in Kiki Vandeweghe in their game against Chattanooga, and Burgess was just lighting it up in the ball game. He went on and, 12 points against VMI in a recent game. The other night, he hit 3 threes. He's really been something, and out front, he's going to fire for 3. That's not going to go. And the rebound by Elam Holgi, who just checked in.
We did the game, and I thought you were exactly right. It was senior night, but it should have been bench players' night the way Burgess was playing.
Peterson from out front won't go, and Frierson brings it down. One of the ways they were able to kind of build a working margin against Chattanooga was getting hot from three-point range. There was contact, and the foul will be called on Holgi. And frankly, it was probably as fluid of an offensive game the Citadels had. And you say, well, wait a minute, they've led the country in scoring at one point this year. They're still among the national leaders, but I thought everything flowed for them. They're attacking the basket in this sense, and I think you'll see more of that as this half unfolds.
Absolutely right. Sledge, Parks, Williams, Johnson, all those guys on the perimeter have the ability to drive. I think that's what they need to do. They can't just settle.
Burgess can't get the roll that time. A foul inside on the rebound try. They're going to go ahead and bring up Kyle Rhodes for Western Carolina. Former walk-on for them, just like the fella he's standing near, number 24 for the Citadel, Burgess. But Kyle Rhodes has given them huge minutes in a year where they had a thin bench.
He has. Larry Hunter, he said, I shouldn't play favorites. And Kyle Rhodes is just as good a student athlete as there is. First one in the gym, last one to leave. You'd think that they put his name on the back of his uniform there. Poor fella works too hard and deserves it.
Well, he's in the box score for sure. That's his second foul, and now 5 on Western Carolina in the opening half, 3 on the Citadel. Mind you, I've got to recalibrate to the men's game of timing, at least as it is now, halves instead of quarters, having done a couple of women's games earlier today. That one's going to get the roll. Give the basket to Nash Down.
That's a great point, Pete. And we can talk about that later, but I do think that the men's game is working that way toward quarters. Every level of basketball, high school, FIBA, NBA, now the women's side, they all play quarters except for men's college.
And they will experiment with it on the men's side in the upcoming NIT postseason tournament.
You know, it's interesting. I'm going to finish that point in just a moment.
And we'll talk more about that on the side of this timeout. Western Carolina was up by 8 just moments. Citadel with that same 4-14 mark. And it's Bulldogs ball down by 4. Continue on with the fact that, again, timing and the way basketball games are laid out probably are going to change. And how would you try to implement that in the men's side?
Well, I think it's difficult to change in a postseason setting. Obviously, the NCAA wants as much data as they can get.
Frierson knocking down the 3. Matt Frierson hit a 3 the other night against Chattanooga. Came at a very opportune time. Probably not really focused on doing that in the postseason. But again, it's the NIT, and the teams in there really want to go win the championship. But since that's not considered the official title, I think the NCAA, since it now oversees the NIT, probably felt comfortable at a very high level of play. And Haboubacar Mutombo hits the three, just a 27% three-point shooter in the game so far. The Catamounts are 3 out of 5 beyond the arc.
When he didn't look like a 27% shooter on that. He stepped in with confidence. Nice follow through.
Look at number 12, Gosselin. Now he's defending in the lane. He was coming all the way out high as Peterson knocks it away. A foot race with Parks. Mutombo also was there trying to steal it. So now Citadel has numbers, and Balogun can't finish, but he will go to the line.
You watch guys here, the way they're battling, the way Western's defending, the way Balogun and others are attacking the basket. I mean, there's something to play for between this 8-9 matchup. And I think something it has to do with two really young teams. You know, you brought up the point earlier. Western starts 2 freshmen, a sophomore, and 2 juniors. And for the Citadel, they're even younger, right? Sled's really the only senior that plays any kind of minutes. And you got Parks and Johnson and Balogun and Allende as freshmen. And these guys don't know any better. It's an opportunity for these coaches to continue to work with these young guys.
First free throw for Balogun was good, and the second one is good. So Ezekiel Balogun, just a 53% free throw shooter, but he's 2 out of 2 on the night. He's got 4 points in the early going to lead the Citadel. Both teams have already used 9 players, and that's as much a comment toward they're trying to win 4 games in 4 days. And the legs are going to wear out at some point, as boy, Oljai was way up there, and there was Sledge underneath him.
Nice job by Oljai, who cut to the middle, and noticing that Mutombo had picked up his dribble right there. It's really dead in the water with a 10 count.
Team fouls now. That's the 4th in the Citadel, first on Sledge, and 6 so far in Western Carolina. Gosselin getting the attention of Allende out on the wing. Steger hit one from there a little bit ago, under 10 on the shot clock. Good find for Mutombo, and would have counted for 3 had it gone. It looked like his foot might be near the line. And it goes out of bounds, and will stay in this end.
He was leaning a little bit on that one. That's what caused it to be short as opposed to the one he just made.
Wide open Steger this time. You can't leave him that uncovered, and he makes him pay.
No, you're exactly right. It's just like Preston Parks for Citadel. You have to locate him at all times. When you let Steger get his feet under him like that in the corner, he's going to shoot a high percentage.
A 41% three-point shooter this season. As you mentioned, a lot of good first-year players in this league as freshmen. Back to a 5-point game. So it comes to 8-point advantages in the contest, and a chance now to build back on this 5-point lead. Nice rebound inside.
Well, we're seeing some really good freshmen here. Obviously, Parks freshman of the year, but I know you like James Dickey at UNCG, and I think John Sharkey at Samford. Those are 3 really good players.
Yeah, Sharkey with just that extra gear. And a really good first step as a point guard. And Dickey has that length. And he's, whereas they have R.J. White, a 5th-year senior at center, who's 6'8", and a bulky guy. Dickey's become their defensive enforcer and become their best rebounder.
Yeah, and Galloway as well is another guy. Those two will, if they grow together, will be a really nice front line for Wes Miller's group.
Oljai tried. Frierson went for the steal. But the foul will be called against Allende for reaching in from behind. First on him, so 6 on Western Carolina. That evens things up in the team foul category. Quick find in the corner once again. Steger wide open. That one rattles off, but there's Gosselin with the putback. Boy, good work by Mark Gosselin, the sophomore from Lyon, France, playing inspired basketball these past couple of games, and a very gentle bounce that time for Parks.
When you're playing Citadel, especially when Preston Parks is in the game, you can't celebrate any made basket. In fact, you've got to try to locate him and slow him up, or if it's Johnson at the point, you can't let those guys get that 15, 20-foot outlet.
Peterson responding inside of the arc. So the Citadel now pushing the tempo. And Parks might have gotten away with an extra step there, but look at the body control in the finish.
And that shot clock was going from 26 to 25, so 4.5 seconds by the time it was inbound and Park made, and that's after a made basket.
Nice feed inside for Gosselin, can't finish. Battles Sledge for the rebound. It's deflected over to Parks. So here comes Parks, who is as good a defensive player as you'll find in the league too. Wide open man in the corner, Sledge, no. And boy, almost disaster right there as Oljai almost knocked it away from a teammate. Turned it over.
Peterson, as he transports the ball, he's about as valuable a Catamount tonight because he's going to be called on to play a lot of minutes. You talk about each team playing 9 guys. He's not going to see a lot of rest here. He's going to be breaking that pressure all night long.
Baseline Peterson, what a nice find by Mutombo. And Devin Peterson finishing, the lead back out to 7.
Another example of Western Carolina finding Mutombo right at that free throw line, right in the middle of that zone.
Dowie thinks about a 3, instead goes over in the corner. Frierson knocks it down, and that's what he can do. Matt Frierson with the tray. So he's 2 out of 2 beyond the arc. And a timeout, or second. Offensively, I think he realizes he's got a core of athletes that probably can run more than they were earlier.
I think you're exactly right. And now that he's kind of found that core of 7 or 8 guys, as we see Peterson take it just about baseline to baseline, he's comfortable with that, and he's letting them go a little bit more. They were offensively challenged early in the season.
Ooh, nice working through traffic that time, and Sledge with the bucket. It's a 2-point game. Let's go ahead and send it over to Meg. Meg?
Guys, Mark Gosselin already has 5 points tonight, but you can expect him to continue to do well. He's been on a hot streak, including 3 double-doubles in a row, as well as a career-high 20 points against VMI.
Yeah, it was a big game for him on Monday night. Just a really big win confidence-wise for Western Carolina, which again only won 4 league games, but they were much better in the second half of league play than they were in the first. And they got a real big home win against Wofford that kind of interrupted Wofford improving in the middle part of the year, and a good job defensively in the half court by the Citadel, and our first shot clock violation of the game.
Well, a really nice defensive possession for the Bulldogs. They took away Gosselin, Peterson, and Steger at all opportunities outside the arc right there. And let's see what the Catamounts can do to respond.
Johnson, the freshman out of Darlington, South Carolina. Frierson from the left wing. And Sled on the rebound.
That's what you've got to make Frierson do. Put it on the floor, 1 bounce. Not quite as good. He's still a very good shooter, but not a great shooter when his feet are set.
Gosselin thought about a spin move one way, and when he turned back to his left, he got rung up. Call made by Carl Hess, Sidney Cohen, and Nomi Kidwai.
See if Gosselin moved that foot. That right foot's the pivot. Yep, and he picked it up there just at the last minute before he went into his shooting motion. So the Bulldog players were helping Carl Hess with that call.
Bulldogs again with the ball down by 2. Their only lead was 2-0. Parks crossing over, step back, and Preston Parks knocks it down. And that is a guy who has really developed a keen ability to create his own shot.
That's a confident shot. I don't know that he came into the Citadel being able to knock that down at this level. Boy, he is certainly one confident offensive player right now.
On the other end, Williams.
Watch Parks again. I mean, he's just a guy that can do a lot of different things, and then at the other end, you got to give Williams some credit for attacking the basket. I'm talking with Larry Hunter before the game. He said that's what we've got to do against this Citadel defense, particularly when they're pressing us. We can't just back it out all the time. We've got to make sure that we attack when the opportunity presents itself. Williams did that time.
Tom Koopman, backup center and a senior for the Citadel, just picked up his first foul. So that's 7 against the Bulldog team, and Williams issues. And that time, Brian White trying to pull down the rebound, but he stepped out of bounds. Another senior in there for a Citadel team. But Koopman, you see him standing right next to White. Those guys saw their playing time go down as the year went on. But again, seniors tend to step up when their careers are on the line, as is the case for those two, as well as Sledge.
All athletes should play with a sense of urgency, but a senior in conference tournament play should elevate it to one more level.
Gosselin hitting the 3, so he's made a couple. On the other end, nothing doing that time on the 4th shot by Parks. Western Carolina back up by 4, looking to add on. And Gosselin, why not, if you're feeling it, rolls out on him. And we head the other way.
This kind of game favors the Citadel.
White, and he pushes home a long two. Very unique shooting style for Brian White, senior out of Richmond's John Marshall High. He once had 27 points in the game, his career high, but that was back in the 2013 and 14 season. When he did that, they probably thought he was going to really develop. It just never really worked out that way.
Pete, he led all freshmen, Southern Conference freshmen, in rebounding, blocks, and field goal percentage just 4 years ago. He's a 1,000-point scorer for the Bulldogs.
Sled losing that through his legs as Frierson came away with it. Parks thought about it from the outside. Now he's going to go ahead and back out. Off the hesitation and bodies fly. And let's see who they get on the foul.
Well, that's a nifty move right there by Parks. He knew he had Steger kind of backpedaling, a little hesitation and go to the basket. That was certainly advantage Preston Parks right there.
Ano Steger picks up his second, so we probably won't see him again in the second half. And that's a pretty big note right there for Western Carolina, as he's been effective from long range, having knocked down a couple of three-pointers so far.
Oh, you're right. And now Larry Hunter's got to manage the game foul-wise. He's got a 2-point lead. Parks the chance to tie it here, but you got a couple of guys on the bench with 2 fouls. You're really going to have to rely on Rhodes and some other bench guys to carry you through the last 4.5 minutes.
Preston Parks at the line for the first time tonight, 82% in his freshman season with the Bulldogs. That was the 7th foul against the Catamounts, so the 1-1, and he'll shoot the bonus. Parks comes off a 22-point night against Chattanooga. That followed his career high of 37 last Saturday out in Birmingham. A huge road win for this young team against Samford.
Yeah, you're right. And then they follow that up with a win at home against Chattanooga. That was probably the 2 best wins that this Citadel staff has had in their 2-year stint.
Oh, and the ball knocked away from Rhodes. You got to be wary of the very quick Frankie Johnson. Sledge in the lane. That one's taken away. Here's Ashley Williams for Western. Slowed up by Quason Williams.
Western a little sloppy with it right now.
Rarely do you see a guy hesitate on a 3 and then actually make it. That was the case right there with Ashley Williams. He didn't seem confident in his setup. And as it turns out, Western Carolina will play teams that played the night before. The bad news is they really don't know among 2 teams who they're going to play, whereas Wofford's known basically for a week that they were going to play Chattanooga, vice versa.
You're exactly right. Wofford and Furman have actually had a full week of rest. They were the two of the teams in the Southern Conference that didn't play Monday, whereas the other 8 teams did. But your point's well taken. I mean, if you're Greensboro, the reward is, hey, you're going to get a team here on short rest.
But Peterson, a little fadeaway Jay, the way he's really picked up his game. He's a guy who, for most of the year, he was only averaging in the single digits, around 7 or 8, but he's put it up over 10 a game. Najdawi driving, and they'll call the foul. I think they're going to get Ashley Williams.
Nice job by Najdawi right there. I think that's kind of been the mantra by Duger Baucom, is to put it on the floor and attack Western Carolina.
Now that's the UNCG team. They're watching probably just for the first half. You see Jordy Kuiper, who on the court does not go with the goggles look. There's one of the really good point guards in the league, Deontay Baldwin, who, frankly, he could have easily been first team and was probably in the competition player of the year. More on that UNCG regular season champion team from Meg. Meg?
Yeah, Deontay Baldwin has really been the leader of this team. They've said that this team has done well in being more serious, and that a lot of that stems from Deontay, and that he's not the type of captain that really likes a lot of joking or a lot of playing around. He's very, very focused. They came here to win, and that mentality is very evident, and even just watching them from the court. They're all serious. They're all watching the game. They aren't messing around, and that really is just how the team has been this year.
In a stunning development, a shot of a bunch of guys between 18 and 22. They were all on their phones. But then again, I guess you could shoot any age demographic in the stands. You'll see them on their phones, as we're back to a 34-all tie. And Najdawi, who just brought that scrappy play, leads to the ability to hang on to the possession, and Duger Baucom uses the timeout.
Duger Baucom, really his second season at VMI, 2005-2006. He started playing this fast style. He really felt like he needed to do something a little different in a military setting, and he's really been committed to it since.
Back into the game, Burgess, and he drains that 3. Tyler Burgess, the walk-on freshman out of Easley, South Carolina. And boy, that has become a late season weapon.
Boy, a terrific set play out of the timeout. Haboubacar got that play from Bob McKillop. Davidson ran that for Steph Curry. They called it dead. Run to the baseline, pick up your dribble dead, and throw it right back to the shooter who's being screened.
It's our second lead change of the game, and the first time Citadel's led since it was 2-0. Peterson, no. Look at Oljai fly in. He can't get it to go. Who else is going to get a hand on it? Eventually, last touch by Western Carolina.
If you're Western Carolina, you're going to kick yourself at halftime if you had the opportunity to watch all those little chippies inside you haven't been able to knock down.
Parks getting the attention of Mutombo. Pretty backdoor pass and a nice finish by Najdawi.
That was the same play, Pete, but now Western Carolina played it, and then the screener slipped right to the basket. So rather than Burgess, who got the screen from Najdawi shooting it, Najdawi got it on the slip.
Mutombo, open look, no. Gosselin doing a nice job. Citadel wanted an over the back call. Feet underneath. Mutombo corrals, makes, and he's fouled.
Boy, that's terrific action. That is a much needed possession and basket by Western Carolina. They've kind of given up the lead. Citadel, a little bit of a run right there, and that stops the bleeding momentarily.
So Mutombo a chance at a three-point play and an opportunity to bring Catamounts back within 2 points. We had a 13-point swing before he made that bucket in this opening half. Leaves it short, deflected back out to him. No, Gosselin mistimed his jump, still gets it. Turnaround, no. Putback try, no. And finally, out of bounds. It'll stay on this end.
You talk about momentum swings. The Citadel is susceptible to as big a or as massive a momentum swings as anybody in college basketball due to their style of play. They do not worry if they're up or down a dozen points.
Koopman coming back in. Dowie will head over the bench. He really scrapping in that last sequence. Feet inside, Gosselin had Sledge wrapped up in there, and Gosselin showing you his strength.
Let me tell you, Western Carolina has been fantastic on out-of-bounds situations. They found Steger once in the corner. A second time he missed it. Gosselin with a putback and in right there. Gosselin gets it.
And they force another turnover. Arrow pointing Western Carolina's way. So Citadel known as a team that tries to scrap you on defense. Western Carolina, Larry Hunter's known for playing good defense too.
No question. That's been really the cornerstone of Larry Hunter, even though he's had some great players over his career in Cullowhee. It's great offensive players. They always have been solid at the defensive end.
Minute and a half to go before the intermission.
Citadel back in the 2-3 zone. Haven't seen that for a little while.
Nice reverse. Peterson open. It's an air ball, but there was Gosselin to catch it. He was pushed on his way in, I believe. That'll be the second on Koopman. Or actually, they're going to get Sledge on the foul.
Boy, even though Gosselin has not been able to finish everything inside, you got to love what he's doing. He's rebounding. He's keeping the ball alive. He's come up with some deflections and held balls. Mark Gosselin has been fantastic here in the first half.
81% free throw shooter on the year. And that is far and away the best among their regulars. But what do you know? He doesn't make the front end right there. And it remains a 1-point Citadel lead. Parks fake to his right, move to his left, doesn't get the roll. Koopman can't get the tip, and there's Oljai running it down. So a minute to go now in the half.
Western Carolina, do you think 2 for 1 right here?
Maybe. Mutombo gonna fire for 3. No. Battle for the rebound inside. Steger to Gosselin. They got a fresh shot clock. Mutombo looking to spin it. Instead goes back to the corner. Steger another 3 try. No. Oljai with the rebound. He's fouled his way back up.
That's a nice jump. Oljai just timed that perfectly. He knew exactly where the ball was coming off the rim.
10th team foul against the Citadel for Matt Frierson, his first.
You see it right there. Frierson clearly on the right arm of Yalim Oljai from Turkey. I think if you're Larry Hunter and you're Western Carolina, look, you can draw from the state of North Carolina. They've had some really good ones from there. But I think you got to think outside the box. And you think Gosselin from France, Olcay from Turkey, even Mutombo is originally from Toronto, Canada, and went to high school here in the United States. I think you've got to do it an unconventional way. You can't just go head-to-head against everybody in the Southern Conference in recruiting and expect you're going to beat them.
Olcay is a 44% free throw shooter. What do you know? He makes both. And Western Carolina back in front. So another lead change here in the opening half. We've had 3.
It's exactly what you wanted if you're Western. You got points on the board, took the lead, and there's still a 6-second difference on the clock. You're going to get it back.
We had that 13-point swing. Western leading by as many as 8. The Citadel eventually went up by 5, but here we are in a 1-point game. Friars trying to change that. No. Battle for the rebound. 9 seconds to go before the half, and Peterson, before he was going to head up court, Larry Hunter with a use it or lose it timeout. He'll go ahead and take it. Gives us a chance to remind sweep on the year against them.
Yeah, Jim Foster's group, boy, he is as good as there is in college basketball.
Off the inbound, Parks, the best steal man in the league, can't get that one to fall. 0.8 of a second to go. Preston Parks coming into the ball game at 59 rather of those, and he has been right up there among the leaders in steals. And just a heave by Steger, but it won't go, and we arrive at halftime here in game number 1.
Pretty good, but she hit the nail on the head. The Citadel must rebound the ball better. I think Western Carolina's got to attack the basket, try to find themselves at the free throw line.
I would think in this half, even though Western Carolina was able to run with the Bulldogs the first 2 games in which they scored 100 the first time and 84 the second, but they prefer to try to get this thing to more of a half-court game. Parks off the offensive rebound. I believe that's probably the first offensive rebound of the game for the Bulldog team, but they can't convert. And Larry Hunter, the way he can run a motion offense with his team, they are the kind of ball club that's kind of built to kind of run some clock, try to get deep in the count, but that time Sled saw the opening and he goes inside.
You talked about him earlier in the first half. Adam Sled just has continually grown into a really, really solid Southern Conference forward center. I mean, he just does nice things. I love his footwork. He's got a nice pace to his game. This is a nice young group if they'll stick together, I think, for both teams.
Yeah, 12 points combined in their 2 meetings in the regular season. Sled that bucket inside moments ago, gave him 6 for this game, which matches his respective totals in the 2 regular season meetings. And again, the lid remains on for the Bulldogs. That's Mutombo, and he finds Steger open in the corner. That's worked out well, but waved that one off.
Stepped on the sideline as Mutombo found him. I sound like a broken record, but the more that Western Carolina can find Mutombo in the middle against that Citadel zone, he can attack off the dribble, or he can find shooters like Steger in the corner, although just can't step out of bounds.
Najdawi going to try one from downtown, and Zane Najdawi is 6'7", 205, but he's a 41% three-point shooter, and we're tied at 42.
I think he's as improved as any player in this league.
No look underneath Mutombo. They couldn't convert, and now out of it comes the very quick Frankie Johnson. Saw Najdawi, who then found Frierson. They'll reset Parks. You can't leave him that wide open. High bounce, won't fall. Battle inside, and the foul will go against Balogun. And Ezekiel Balogun, who started this game like gangbusters with a couple of quick field goals, picks up his 3rd personal foul. That's a big storyline right there. They need his bulk inside.
They certainly do. They need Parks to be able to knock down threes. He's not going to find himself that open like he was on the last possession very often. Johnson for Citadel. He is such a pest.
Peterson contested at the rim, can't get it to go. Najdawi able to deflect to Balogun. Here it comes ahead. Parks doesn't have numbers, but a step through around Gosselin, and he puts it up and in. And the Citadel moves back in front, our 4th lead change of the game.
That is a terrific play by Preston Parks, finishing on the other side of the rim.
And contact underneath.
Well, watch that here again. Balogun gives it up. Parks, little hesitation right, then he goes left, uses the other side to shield Gosselin from able to block it. That is a terrific basketball play by Preston Parks.
Preston Parks, freshman of the year in the SoCon, 18 points a game, even better in league games. And another freshman, Ano Steger for Western Carolina at the line. 64% this year on free throws and making that one as he's got 7 in the game. And the second one up and in, so it's the first time in this game he's scored and it hasn't been a three-pointer. But he ties us up at 44.
Who's going to make the fewest mistakes? I think that's what this half and this game's going to boil down to.
And away from the ball. And they're going to get Sled for the hold.
Just kind of got tied up there with Naj Dowie. I don't think anything intentional. Just trying to push him off the block and locked arms.
First on Sled. There's Dowie off the inbound. Oh, and a good job. Sled didn't mean to, or are they going to get him for the foul? Wow. He didn't even know the ball was coming in there, I don't believe. I thought he was being, he might have thought he was being faked out.
Watch it again on the out of bounds. A lot of action going on. He just was putting his arms up on a closeout. As Naj Dowie brings the ball down, he created as much contact as Sled. But that's his second. He'll take a breather.
Naj Dowie rejected from behind Steger, but he couldn't hang on. So Sled out with Oljai in. Steger getting a little bit scrappy defensively.
Nice job right there coming over. He recognizes Naj Dowie's not going to give it up. So he leaves Frierson. It's a risk that he was willing to take, and it worked out well.
Johnson after taking it in the backcourt. Frierson. Now Johnson, and that one's partially blocked. Looked like Mutombo got a hand on it. Look at Parks, though, with the hustle. Eventually deflected over. Yet another scramble in this game. Ball is passed to Parks. He's like, what am I going to do with it? I'm on the ground. And then Frierson covering it up like it's a fumble in football. And a timeout is called by Duggar Balkan.
And that's Oljai. He needs to look.
Right around halftime, they have a unique distinction. At this moment, there are 5 teams that were playing at the major college level, or whatever they called it back in the late 30s when the NCAA men's basketball tourney started. But there are 5 teams as Frierson looks to beat the shot clock and will not on the air ball. So there are 5 teams, though, that currently exist that have never been to the NCAA men's tournament, either as an automatic bid by winning their league or as an at-large qualifier. Well, the other night, a length of the court pass that led to the winning points for Northwestern against Michigan might have sealed the deal for the Wildcats, believe it or not, out of the Big Ten to finally get to the NCAA tourney. A little added irony there is the first ever NCAA tourney in 1939 was held in their old field house as Naj Dowie knocks down the tray and the Bulldogs move back in front. So assume Northwestern gets in out of what's not a great Big Ten this year, that they at least get in as an at-large. That would leave, unless the Citadel Bulldogs win their tournament or these other teams win their respective tournaments, the Citadel, William & Mary, Dartmouth, and Army West Point as the last 4 who've never been to an NCAA men's basketball tournament. The air ball suddenly becoming in vogue on both sides. It'll head the other way.
I think you're probably a pretty safe bet that Chris Collins will get the Northwestern Wildcats in their first NCAA tournament. Much deserved. And you're right, if you saw the replay or you're watching that game live, what just a miraculous full court heave and lay-in at the buzzer to beat Michigan. Happy for Chris Collins and his staff. They're good people, hard work, and do it the right way.
And let's face it, Mike Krzyzewski and his amazing career, he's not going to coach forever. And, guys like Collins have to be thinking if they do a good job in the Big Ten, maybe they could be the heir apparent. Some would suppose Jeff Capel has dibs on that. Once again, Steger open in the corner, and he's going to get that one to rattle off. But there's Gosselin active on the boards. So is Balogun. So is Gosselin. Out of bounds it goes, and it'll head the other way. Brings us to a timeout. 40.
We've seen him knock down threes there, but he could also put it on the floor.
As now he's just a sophomore out of Midlothian, Virginia. And his scrappy play moments ago led to the Bulldogs getting the ball back. Winner of this game gets UNCG. It'll be an early wake-up call tomorrow at noon as Dowie finishes inside, and he continues to build on a big second half. Of course, for the Citadel guys, that shouldn't be an issue. Heck, if they let them sleep until 9, that's like wasting half of the day in their world. And they have a 5-point lead to match their biggest of the game. Mutombo responds with I think, a very big bucket at this point. With Western Carolina, I would think the body language can go south in a hurry when you've had the struggles they have, especially in the second halves of games.
No, you're exactly right. And I think it's going to come down, as I said, who makes the fewest mistakes and who maintains a high level of energy and focus.
And perhaps right there, we'll look at that moment as the Citadel was trying to rebuild the lead to 5 or maybe 6.
You talk about some of the struggles for both of these teams, even though Citadel's played well late. They both lost some key players at various points throughout the season that really could have helped them at the offensive end.
No look pass, and then a real nice job by Oljai to wait because he's only a 44% free throw shooter. Granted, he made a couple earlier, but I think his thought is, you know what, I better try to make the bucket instead of taking the chances and see, hey, if I get a foul called in here, but then going to the line. So a 1-point game. Crossover Johnson. Burgess back in there, another one of their good shooters. This time they have him on the floor with Parks. That wasn't the case in the first half. Parks spins, tries to shovel, and Gosselin will have none of that. It's his 20th block of the year, does Mark Gosselin, the Western Carolina sophomore.
That's a really good job guarding Parks, and he moved his feet and just stayed with him. That's hard to guard Parks and Johnson. Watch the block right here. He moves his feet, times it just right. Parks trying to use that offhand, the right hand, to kind of scoop it in the basket. Gosselin will have nothing of it.
Mark Gosselin's played a really good game. He's had a good second half. Really nice idea by Tom Koopman that time, but I'm not so sure the pass was expected underneath.
Well, with 7 on the shot clock, I think they needed to hurry up and run something quick.
Full court pressure, Citadel style this time, not just the kind of 3 quarters we'd seen. But a good job breaking it. Gosselin now with numbers, tries to pass it. Koopman got a hand on it.
Just getting ready to say, Citadel now starting to pick up the pace just a little bit, extending defensively in hopes that Devin Peterson and Mutombo are tiring in the legs a little bit.
Gosselin downtown, realized it wasn't going to go. Nice box out by Koopman to allow Balogun to get the rebound. Here come the Bulldogs. Parks, why not in transition? And the freshman knocks down the tray.
That's really nice freshman to freshman action. Parks gave it up to Johnson, and then he spotted up behind the line. Put the pressure on the Western defense to pick and choose. Back to your point earlier, I think Western's got to start matching them here. This is another critical possession.
Peterson can't get that one to go. Gosselin battling inside. Balogun coming away with it. Oh, and he lost the handle. Out of bounds it goes. Unforced error, and the Citadel turns it over.
Yet another freshman, but a mistake right there. As we watch his last possession, Parks gave it up to Johnson. Johnson had it in the middle of the floor, and that just put undue pressure on Devin Peterson to pick. Do I stay with Johnson, also going to the basket, or stay with Parks outside of 3? Chose Johnson. Wrong option there. Parks rang up the 3.
See number 24, Ashley Williams in. I think Larry Hunter's probably realizing the Citadel looks like they're kind of getting their stride. And they've really looked good offensively, I think, since the midway mark of the first half. But Williams, again, is another guy that can maybe open things up outside for Western Carolina. He's down at the bottom of your screen, especially against the zone.
No question. They're really extending that zone as well, although nice job right there getting to Gosselin in the middle.
Sled had left after picking up 2 quick fouls earlier in the half, but he makes it a 2-point game. Step to the left, Frierson won't get it to go, and Koopman in a battle with Mutombo, the battle of the number 11s, and it'll be won by Koopman as the ball's knocked out of bounds.
Mutombo not in agreement with that. Nephew of Dikembe Mutombo. I think that name probably registers with most fans.
So Sledge to inbound. And a long one. Gosselin, boy, was about a step shy of really making a solid effort to knock that one away.
I thought the inbounder might have traveled with the basketball right there, panicking under a 5-second count. No call by the officials.
A little bit of a dribble and then a roll by Sledge, and he gets it back. Penetrate. Nice job by Sled on Sledge right there. And the freshman winning over the senior. Ahead, Sled hurrying down the court, and I think we're going to get a goaltend inside on Balogun, or is it going to be a foul? No, a foul instead. And they'll say 2 shots. So we've got a timeout on the court. The pace is...
Yeah, some excitement, some fun to the conference tournament, the culmination of punching your ticket on Monday for one of these 10 teams. Everybody has that goal. You know, the other thing, Pete, is the coaches, well, look, you watch a lot of film. This is the only time you can live scout. So you may be able to pick up a signal or a verbal command and may be able to help you down the stretch over the course of 3 or 4 days.
Sled becomes the third double-figure scorer for Western Carolina. All three of them have 10. Peterson, Mutombo, and now Sled. Parks leads everybody, as he usually does, with 16, and Mulligan is going to get called for the walk.
Just a bull in a china shop kind of move right there for Balogun.
So we continue with our 10th tie of the game. Still plenty of time remaining, of course. VMI and Samford to follow. Samford team was arriving right around halftime. Inside move by Peterson. He'll get the roll there, and back in front goes Western Carolina. 5 lead changes, 2 of them here in the second half. Another turnover. Peterson in the middle of the action, and he finishes. Devin Peterson against the Citadel at this point. Bulldogs love to run it, and here they come the other way, suddenly down by 4, and we'll get the push called, I believe, against Mutombo. Let's send it over to Meg for more. Meg, I'm sorry, let's go ahead and take a look at this replay first.
Well, Johnson, I mean, first of all, Peterson was terrific right there. He scored the basket, a little body English, and then he comes up with a steal, and he showed an extra gear outrunning Nash Dowie. But I'll tell you what, you can't celebrate, particularly when Frankie Johnson's in the game. He is right back at you.
Citadel trying to break an 8-0 run by Western Carolina. And Nash Dowie drives inside. Parks out front, gonna fire from long range, and they needed that to get back within 1. Let's send it over to Meg. Meg?
Thanks, guys. So I was behind the huddle for the Citadel, and Coach Bauckham was really, it was about boxing out and back to basics. He said nothing intricate, no fancy plays. He said we just need to do the basics well. Our guards need to rebound. It's that simple. Then he kind of was really inspirational. He said, you guys have 12 minutes. Don't give me anything less than everything you have.
Coach Bauckham, the way his teams play, they need to always give 110%. Oh, what a nice shovel try by Johnson. Nothing doing. Gosselin comes down with it initially. And then how about Nash Dowie? Gosselin not too happy. I'd be stunned if they tried to look at this anything more than just a held ball. It's just 2 guys competing. And it was more of a shoulder of Nash Dowie than anything else.
You'll watch it again, though. I'll tell you what. If you had any doubt that this game didn't mean something to either of these teams and these young guys, you see the battle in there. Gosselin comes up with it, and Nash Dowie, as Gosselin lifts the ball up. Not sure that Gosselin had any right to run at him, although there was a little bit of a shoulder into this by Nash Dowie into the chin, but play on by the officials is the right call.
Ooh, that was almost an up and down just into the ball game. Maurice Smith, and then contact and an offensive foul. So Citadel does use the pressure to get the ball back, just in a different way.
Well, and you figured that there was going to be a makeup call. Let's just call it the way it is. That was certainly a travel, and then Carl Hess got the charge seconds later.
Mutombo called for the foul. That'll be his 3rd. He's the first with 3 for Western Carolina. Balogun has 3 for the Citadel. Parks, boy, the body control in the air, gets the ball back. Just really something to see. Here's Frierson, right wing, and back in front go the Bulldogs. Matt Frierson's done a nice job off the bench. He's kind of been a secret weapon for Coach Bauckham as the season's unfolded. Mutombo this time from downtown. You hit a 3, then we hit a 3, and back and forth they go.
And don't blink, because Johnson's right back at you to his favorite target.
And Balogun doing a nice job battling with the taller Gosselin. I think Gosselin's still steamed about that scrape he had with Nash Dowie. So Western Carolina, 1-point lead.
You're right. If you're Gosselin, you got to keep your emotions in check right here. You don't want to pick up a cheap foul.
Believe it or not, that was just the first 3 of the half for Western, and that time Peterson can't hit the 2. Catamounts are 6 out of 19 beyond the arc. The Citadel, which that's part of their brand, they're 9 out of 22. They came into this ball game at 34%.
A little bit of a clear out right here for Parks to go one-on-one against the newly inserted Smith.
Oh, and he hits the deck. Almost got that one to go. Devin Parks does about as good of a job of making bad shots as anyone in the league. Let's take a look at some of our long-range shooting of late.
It's been really good on both sides. You saw Frierson there, and then right back at you. What you can do, I can do better. Mutombo with his second one of the day. You mentioned it in the first half, just a 27% three-point shooter on the season, but Mutombo has looked good from behind the arc here today.
Parks back to the line where he's 2 out of 2, now 2 out of 3. He's a guy who's been a good part of the year in the high 80s, comes in at 82% on free throws.
He had his first career start as a collegiate player at Western Carolina. Had 28 in that first starting assignment. He was 8 of 12 behind the three.
And the second one's up and in for Parks. So a little over 2/3 of the way into the game. We've got a 59 all tie. The Bulldogs have had 9 100-point games this year. Doesn't appear they're on that pace.
Something else to watch for Duger Balkum's squad, just one timeout down the stretch. You know, they utilized that second one at the 4-minute mark in the first half, and then they had to use one on the ground at 16.5 minutes here in the second half. So just one for the Citadel Bulldogs.
Actually in a tie game now, 59 apiece as we're coming up on 8.5 to play.
You're Steger, you got to try to sneak behind this line, this zone, and free yourself for an opportunity.
Steger on the fadeaway. No, sled battled, but it's deflected out. Here comes Johnson. Oh, and he almost carried the ball at the end. Ende finds Frierson. Frierson's made 3 of the 9 3-pointers in the game for the Citadel team. And he's getting the attention of Mutombo, who often will get the best wing player. And with Parks over on the bench, Frierson becomes probably their best outside shooter, and sled almost lost that rebound.
It's all set up with dribble penetration by both Johnson and Parks, but Frierson can't knock it down. Boy, they list Johnson at 5'9". I'm not sure he's close to that, but he is fun to watch. By no means is he this guy, but he's got a little bit of Muggsy Bogues in him, how he plays low to the ground and really pushes the basketball in transition.
That last rebound, by the way, just gave Gosselin, who can't get the shot, a double-double for a 4th straight game, so he has been on fire lately. And that one's knocked out of bounds, and it'll stay. And that is 16 number 1 upset when they took Purdue all the way down to the wire and lost by 3. Then there's an interesting twist from that 96 team to our ball game tonight and this current Catamount team.
Well, their top assistant, Anquan McCullum, 6th Southern Conference tournament. Anquan's been on Larry Hunter's staff all 12 years. He's a rising star and will run his own program one day. But you're right, Phil Hopkins was the coach, and they darn near beat the Purdue Boilermakers and Gene Katie that night.
Out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Maybe Purdue was winded. Nice move to the basket that time, and Ezekiel Balogun averaging half a dozen points a game. He's contributed, though, offensively in this one. He's had a half a dozen. Western Carolina trying to continue their stranglehold on the Citadel. 11 out of 12 won in the series coming in after the Citadel built a big lead, but the Bulldogs lead is down to 36-35 all time against the Cats. And a 3-point try, and Mutombo knocks that down. Haboubacar Mutombo coming in just 27%, but he gets that tray to go, and he's hit 3 in the game.
Hey, if you're going to advance in tournament play, you've got to have some unlikely things happen. And that's one of them right there. Mutombo knocking down 3 threes here this evening. Watch it again. He steps up with confidence. Flips it to one side. Peterson right back at him. Defensive hands are down. Ball's above his shoulder, and he knocks it down.
14th turnover by the Bulldogs, right at about their season average. Western Carolina's given it up 15 times in the game. So the 1-point lead for Western Carolina. Sled was trying to add to that. Rebound inside by Balogun. So Preston Parks dribbled by the Giant basketball, moving along the other way on the marquee screen. How many players have gotten caught off guard seeing that as they come up the floor? That time Steger will get the bump call. And so that'll be 3rd on him and the 7th on the Catamounts. So the Citadel Bulldogs, very good, up in the mid-70s, 76% free throw shooting. Not a great situation for Western Carolina. The Bulldogs with just 3 team fouls here in the second half.
Oh, you're right. And for a team that presses and wants to play fast, shows great discipline that you only have 3 fouls with 6:20 to go in a half.
Parks draining the first one.
Just can't say enough good things about Preston Parks. You know, it also tells you that you can't always believe the recruiting services and all the internet sites. While most of them are quite good, he wasn't on anybody's radar, at least not at this level. I mean, this is a guy that's got a chance to, you know, he can score 2,000 points in his career if he stays healthy and get some additional help around him, and guys like Johnson and Balogun and Alinde just grow up.
Great find underneath Mutombo, not able to finish. And then Sled went up, got the rebound, but they say he pushed off. And so Adam Sled, who picked up 2 quick ones earlier in the half, picking up another one right there. And that is number 4 on Sled, and they'll walk the other way, and the Citadel a chance now to add on.
Larry Hunter doesn't have any choice but to sit Sled here for at least a couple of minutes.
So Zane Nash-Dowie back to the free throw line, 2 out of 2 tonight. Run into the 1 and 1, and he'll shoot the bonus.
We've talked about what he's done, averaging almost 15 points and 6.5 rebounds this season, and what an improvement it is. And it wasn't like he had a bad freshman year. I mean, look at the numbers here, bear it out as a sophomore, but last year he averaged 2 blocks a game, which was second in the SoCon behind Justin Toyo, Chattanooga. So he's had a really nice 2-year career thus far in Charleston.
16 points for Nash-Dowie, better than his average of just under 15. Parks have led the way offensively as per usual. 3-point Citadel lead. Western Carolina winning in Cullowhee between these two this year by 5. The Citadel then saw them come in, and Western won by 4 down in Charleston in February.
I don't know that I necessarily buy in this instance that it's tough to beat a team 3 times. You come in here both evenly matched in different areas.
Ooh, 3 fouls on Sledge, leads to a bunny for Gosselin, can't get it to go, and fighting inside Nash-Dowie for the rebound. Wow, that'll just make Larry Hunter sink in his seat. No whistle there as Parks hits the deck. He almost was able to flick it up close to the rim. So here come the Catamounts again, still down by 3. Foul on Sledge was his 3rd, but just the 4th in the half on the Citadel. What a great pass underneath by Peterson, but Steger unable to do anything with it. Now here's Balogun ahead of the pass, and he lays it up and in.
That's twice. That's 2 opportunities. If you look over that Western bench, Larry Hunter just doing everything he can to stay positive. It's hard. I said it's who makes the least mistakes here in the second half is going to have the greatest chance to win. And mistakes don't just come in the form of turnovers. They're missed chippies like Gosselin had right there.
Larry Hunter out of the timeout. Western Carolina looking up at the biggest deficit it's seen tonight. The Citadel's matched a 5-point lead they had back in the opening half of play. That zone looks to be very effective since Duggar Balcom has decided to use that as a primary defense. And a move inside, no for Oljai. Look at Gosselin just hustling. And now Steger from the right wing misses everything. Peterson coming in, trying to get the rebound. We've got a foul called. Are they going to get Devin Peterson? I think they will. And so for Peterson, that is just his first foul, but 9th against the Western Carolina team, and they'll walk to the other end.
Look, right now, if this is the largest lead, or at least matches the largest lead of 5 points, and with a chance to get to 6 or 7, but if you're Western Carolina, you got to keep your head up. You can't dip it. Gosselin, forget about that last miss, Chippy. Steger, forget about that air ball from behind 3. You've got to move to the next play.
Warren Sledge out of Keller, Texas, a senior, 84% free throw shooter, and that gives the Bulldogs their largest lead of the night at 6 points. Second one up and in. Keep in mind they're trying to win their 3rd straight in a year in which they only managed 11 total wins coming in. And they were down by 15 early against Samford last Saturday in Birmingham, and that's been the case throughout this year. They found themselves in big deficits. Duggar Balcom just almost with his shoulders slumped called a timeout in that first half. He tells us he just called the guys over and say, okay, you got what you wanted. You're down by 15. What are you going to do about it? Yeah. And they have been as tough a team to play for the final, 30 or so minutes of that game. Nothing doing again. Mutombo, though, the putback, and a good basket right there to cut it to 7-point lead. But they've really been good since about the 10-minute mark of the first half of last Saturday's game.
You hit the nail on the head, and so much of this game is mental. You gotta clear yourself, especially when you're a young guy. The game is so fast at first. I've always said it. Look, a man among boys in high school is just a man among men in college, and it takes time to adjust. And some of these young Citadel freshmen have adjusted quite nicely.
No for Balogun, no for Najdawi, and the rebound to Oljai. So Western with that bucket just a few seconds ago snapped an 8-0 Citadel run. Let's see if they can put a run of their own together.
Peterson,
boy.
I was going to say, Peterson continues to have some really fresh-looking legs out here in directing Catamounts.
Mutombo, his 4th 3 of the game, and that is big time for Haboubacar Mutombo. He's got 20 in the contest.
And, you know, that wakes up this Western Carolina crowd. You know, even with a season that they've had, you mentioned it earlier, just because of the proximity, they've got a nice showing here.
So trying to get a breath, maybe trying to use some clock. It is a 2-point lead. Parks out high. And this is pretty much going to be the Devin Park show. Fadeaway 3. Just when Western was feeling good about being back within 2, Devin Parks happens.
Sometimes it's about the Joeys and the Jims, not the X's and the O's.
Turned into a veritable shootout. Duggar Balkum's look across the court from us says it all. Kind of a wry smile. So back to a 2-point game. And because we have the stop and play, we'll go ahead and take the under 4 timeout. I think both teams.
5 minutes. Become a shootout, as you said, but they're getting the Citadel Bulldogs started off on the right foot.
Oh, and knocked away out of bounds. You know, Larry Hunter said one of the things that they battled earlier in the year was veteran leadership on the team. I think it's safe to say that Devin Peterson is a junior, maybe, you know, his first year as upperclassman as a junior. Maybe early on he didn't realize it, but I think he's one, perhaps Mutombo, some of these others you see, and maybe even a few of the freshmen. I mean, Oljai, international player, as is Gosselin. That one going to be an air ball that goes out of bounds. And you just would think that maybe some of these guys have taken on leadership roles, regardless of their class for Western as the year's gone on.
Look, Western's not that far away. You look at the record, and it's not where Larry Hunter's used to being, but I think he can turn this around in a hurry next year. Some of these young guys grow up. You've got some good young talent. You bring in a couple of guys. You know, the biggest thing is just staying healthy and staying together and getting back to that Western Carolina culture, whereby it's pass first, play hard, play together.
Gosselin out front for the lead. That one misses rim. It collapsed on Mutombo based on what he's done out of bounds. It will stay Western Carolina's way, but with just 5 on the shot clock.
Something to watch moving forward. Just 1 minute and 44. Now Citadel has the lead, but they only have 4 team fouls. By chance, if they get down and have to foul, I mean, they need to foul 3 times to put Western Carolina on. Because in an instance like when somebody's out of timeouts, you provide them an opportunity to visit with their team.
Mutombo, he knows there's only 5 on the clock, and he's bailed out with 2 seconds. Warren Sledge called for his 4th, so foul trouble also becoming a bit of an issue on either side. Sledge, the first one for the Bulldogs with 4. They also have Mutombo Sledge, the first one. Balogun has 3, and then on the other side, Sled has 4. And that one's going to go the other way, so Western Carolina unable to capitalize. So the Bulldogs 5 team fouls, but on the Western Carolina side, Sled has 4, and then you've got 2 with 3. That would be Steger and Mutombo. So a big turnover right there.
Very big turnover, and now if you're Citadel, you've got to continue to play. You might take the air out of it just a little bit, but by no means can you feel comfortable right now. Can't imagine that they won't try to find Parks in some form or fashion as the clock runs down.
The guy with the ball, a very good free throw shooter, Johnson, and Bulldogs are in the double bonus. Najdawi finds Balogun finishing underneath. Big bucket, one big man to the other.
A terrific pass right there by Najdawi. Western doesn't need to rush. Certainly multiple possessions, multiple time left.
Oh, an inopportune time for Olshai to travel. It was pretty obvious in a 2-possession game. These two teams, again, played a 5-point game and a 4-point game during the regular season. The Citadel had to hang on at Samford and won by 6. For the most part, the Citadel really has not been in that many close games this year, and Western Carolina likewise. Johnson showing you that speed.
Just a low to the ground. You just can't take it from him, and he just outran Peterson and Mutombo, who were trying to chase down that ball.
Bulldogs can take this thing all the way down. Close to 30 seconds on that game clock. First getting a screen. Ooh, tried to split defenders. Nice job on the steal by Steger. Feeds to Sled. Can't get it to go. Rebound, Nash Dowie. Now you have to foul if you're Western. Nash Dowie feeding out to Parks. I don't think he could believe that his teammate wasn't fouled. And now they'll foul Preston Parks, who's got a chance to just about put the lid on this one for the Citadel Bulldogs.
We saw it in the first half, and it's happened here again. Western fans just can't believe the chippies, those opportunities just in and around the rim that they haven't been able to knock down. Just the story of this game.
Preston Parks fires the first one up in innings. Now 7 out of 8 in the game. There's a couple of really successful high school basketball coaches in the upstate of South Carolina. First Daryl Nance, and then when Daryl Nance retired, Reggie Choplin had Parks for his final year at Wade Hampton High in Greenville. And Wade Hampton's girls basketball team is playing for a 5A state title in South Carolina this evening. They're about to tip off and try to win their first ever girls basketball crown as Preston Parks makes a year.
No question about it. Good timeout. Even though that was Duger Baucom's last one, I think he wanted to talk about defensively what they're going to do, try to slow up, force Western to burn some clock. And that, look, they have a foul to give if they want to.
Well, a kick that time. So.
And that's perfect. That just burned 5 seconds, 5 critical seconds.
And now you have to inbound if you're Western, so you would assume at least 1.5 seconds once the ball touches you to kind of get a range to pass the ball. So the inbound works to Citadel's advantage in this case. Mutombo going to try another 3, couldn't get it to go. Nash Dowie underneath, and then I believe he lost the handle. Officials talking it over. It'll go over to the Citadel, and I would suppose they will look at the monitor for that one. And they will do just that. The timing would be very simple. You've got a shot clock. When the officials go over to the replay monitor, just set the shot clock at whatever time you determine and then reset it back to what the shot clock should be. And the call is confirmed.
Yeah, for officials working really well together quickly. They'll keep the ball with Citadel now at this point. And Western Carolina has one more opportunity to kind of come up with a steal or, if not foul, in hopes that the Bulldogs will miss.
Oh, and Gosselin got just that. Mutombo inside for 2, and he puts it up and in. Quick timeout for Larry Hunter, so still life for Western Carolina.
Best inbounder. Warren Sledge taking it out, and then their best free throw shooting unit on the floor.
And the old pass out of bounds. Parks can still run, gets it to Johnson. That was really well done. And the foul on the reach in by Steger.
You don't see that as much as you used to. And the reason you can do that is it was a live ball. You can run, so you can run one player out of bounds.
So you have the ability to run. So 2.1 seconds came off the game clock. For Steger, his 4th. Pretty physical game, pretty aggressive game. Johnson, free throw up, gets the roll. Frankie Johnson, 76%, comes from Darlington, South Carolina, no doubt as a young kid, probably heard the rumble of the stock cars at the track in town, and you know, he brings his own version of speed from
well, it's like NASCAR. You can't appreciate how quick he is until you see him live. It's the same way with NASCAR. You watch him on TV all you want, but until you're there live, you don't understand how fast they're going.
2 big free throws right there. So still a 2-possession ball game, but that might have done it right there. And again, knocking it out of bounds, and with 3.5 to go. If you're the Citadel, you can pretty much go run over your team and start celebrating. Who cares what Western Carolina does? I mean, it would take a microwave quick 3. No, and that should do it. The Citadel Bulldogs will win their third straight game here late.